What's that? Yeah. Do you want? Yeah, we'll do the song first. I'll get. Oh, we're going to be a little Pentecostal today. Guess what we get to do? No, we're not. We're not going to do that. Trust me. Not with me up here, anyway. First of all, good to have everyone here. I'm going to open with a word of prayer before we start our lessons, and Gary's going to lead us with the song that's on your table there. How great thou art. So we'll start with a word of prayer together. Lord, thank you for the time we have together listening to your word. Thank you for the fellowship we can have with you while we're here, and thank you for the life lessons we're going to learn. Certainly a very important aspect of the commandments, the instructions you gave the Israelites, you also gave to us to attempt to follow. Just pray for a blessing on our time, Lord. Amen. Okay. Well, we're here to start our first of 14 lessons on the 10 Commandments. And I got it on. Yeah. Yeah. Am I bad? Good? Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to have to do it remotely. Adjust the mic up there for down here. So we'll get her done. I'll try to. Can you hear me good enough right now? Okay. Okay. And today we're not discussing a single commandment. For an introduction, we're not even discussing one. But we're discussing, more importantly, the author of the commands today. If we don't have a proper idea of who gave the commands and what respect we should give him, we won't respect the commandments. We won't even try to do them. We can't try to do them, but that'll be another lesson in the future. First of all, I need a volunteer. Corbin, I thought you'd be a perfect volunteer. You want to come up here and help me? It's easy. Don't worry. You don't have to say a lot of verses or anything. You just have to hold on to this and do something with it. Uh-oh, we got some paint or something on here. Paper. Let's get that off there. Here you go. You know what that is? Does your mom have one of those for exercising, I bet? She might. Okay, all right. Here's what I want you to do while I'm talking for a little while. I want you to take both your hands like this and go up and down and up and down. Don't stop till I tell you, okay? I won't make you go too long. Don't worry. We won't make you go too long. Okay. We're going to let them go for a little while. Keep going. Oh, it's getting hard. Oh, boy. Only 30 more to go. No, we're not going to do that many. Okay, that'll be fine. Stay right here for just a second. Now tell me, which arm was easier to go up and down with? The arm you had the weight on or the arm you didn't have the weight on? The one that had the weight on, it was a lot harder to go up and down after the end, wasn't it? Yeah, you know, how would you like to try to hold that weight and tie your shoes? Could you do that very good? No. What about eating breakfast? Do you think you'd do that, hold on to that weight very good? So that weight's just a big hassle, isn't it? It's a hindrance in your life. It's kind of makes things harder, doesn't it? What about playing basketball? You think that would make you a better basketball player if you carried that around the whole game? No, it wouldn't. Okay, well, you may sit down. Thank you for your help. Give them a hand, everybody. Okay. Okay, so very good. Does it feel good to get released from that weight that you don't have to carry it around all day? Is that good? No, you don't like to carry that around, do you? No. No, that would be, yeah. So it's kind of like a great escape from having a big burden on. We like to get rid of those burdens, okay? You know, we're going to talk today about a great escape in the Bible, a big burden lifted up. And I got some questions to start out with, and everybody's free to answer. Just raise your hand like the rules of the class. We raise our hands and I'll call on you, or we don't pick on you. And no talking during Sunday school class unless it's discussion time. Then you can discuss amongst your table. And we'll have a set of questions. I'll have somebody help me hand those out later that we can talk amongst our tables. Okay. So let's talk about Exodus. Exodus. Now I noticed there's a sign in here, two signs in fact, that have something to do or are similar to Exodus. Can you see one of those? Tell me the first one, Trish. One you see. There's one now over there. Exit, exit. Is there another one somewhere? You at front can probably see it. There's one at the doorway over there. So if we have to exit in a fire, which we're not going to, hope we don't have to practice that today, we go out the door, right? So Exodus is a word that means going out or the way out. Going out or the way out. Okay, let's see if you can answer some questions about Exodus. There's another, where do we hear about Exodus? Did anybody give me a clue? Micah or Sarah? Exodus, what is that? Do you remember ever hearing about that? What about when you do Bible sword drills? Might you come across that? The word Exodus? Leah? Help them out. Tell me where you've heard the word Exodus. Where in the Bible, book of the Bible. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about an event in the Bible that is recorded in the book of the Bible called Exodus. But let's see. Here's some questions we're going to answer. We're going to answer in this lesson today. I'll put this over here. Who, what, how, why, and we might even ask where and when. You never know. We might get all those in. So all those questions here. Let me tell you. Here's a who. Who left the Exodus? In the Bible, that story you probably all heard dozens of times, if not hundreds. Who left somewhere in the Bible to go somewhere else? They left somewhere out. Okay, raise your hand. Okay, Dan, go ahead. The Jews, where'd they leave? Okay, they left the land of Egypt. Okay. So the Jews or the Hebrews or the children of God, those are all names we call those people, and they're all legitimate names. Okay. And Dan said where they left from. Where were they going? Who knows where they're going? Tell us where they're going. Okay. The Promised Land. You got the answer exactly right. Is in the Promised Land, or Canaan, as can be called too, but the Promised Land. Okay. Before they left, what was their situation? How was their life? Can you describe what their life was like? Yes. They were slaves. Sometimes one of my kids, I remember the famous line he said, Beth will love to tell this story, said, "You just had us so we can be your slaves," when they were children. I thought we had those so we could be your slaves, but we had you, but who knows? That was my oldest son, Jordan. He thought that was, what a taskmaster we were, I'll tell you. Okay, so here's another question. How did they escape from Pharaoh? Now, Pharaoh in Egypt, Pharaoh was one of the mightiest kingdoms of the time. And he had many, many warriors. He had many chariots. He had lots of money. He had lots of power. And what he could say, everybody had to do. So how could they, being slaves, go ahead. Did you have your answer? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. You were just adjusting your hair. Okay, Mark. The power of God. Oh, they weren't powerful themselves? No. Okay. And now, did the Egyptians have the power of God? No, they did not. No, they did not. But the Israelites or the Jewish or the Hebrew people did. Okay. You guys are doing pretty good here. Okay. How exactly, what power, how did he show his power? What did he do to the Egyptians that made him want to get rid of the Israelites or the Jewish people? Yes. The plagues. Okay. You guys have never had a plague. You might have had the flu, and you might have had a bad cold, and you might have had COVID, but you've never had a plague like God gave the Egyptians. Give me 2 plagues. All I want is 2 plagues. Who's going to help me out? Who can give me 2? Chris. Chris. What's that? Water turning to blood. All the water in Egypt. And what's another one, Dan? Frogs. Frogs are nice little creatures. What's wrong with frogs? I think that'd be neat if we had a lot of frogs. Too many frogs. Frogs everywhere. Inside, outside, in pots and pans, and under bed sheets, everything. Ooh, I wouldn't want to sleep with a bunch of frogs. Okay, so let's see another question here. And once they got going, they encountered some difficulty in their exodus out of Egypt. And there was some things that God took care of. And we're going to talk about one of those a little later, just mention it briefly. Okay. Why did the Hebrews or the Jews or the Israelites need to leave Egypt? Why did they need to? What was their purpose? Moses said, we want to go so we can do what? I'm looking for a hand, Beth. Worship their God. Worship the real God, not these phony gods that the Israelites had, or the Egyptians had. They had, every one of those plagues were a god to them. They had, frog was a god to them. Water was a god. Sun was a god to them. They were all funny gods, not real gods, but Yeah, they said they worshiped those even, I'd heard. I think they had about any kind of creature that God made, they worshiped. Not because God made them, but because they lifted them up. Okay, so I'm going to have, Ari, would you help me hand out these to every table, these questions? And you can get your sister there to help if she wouldn't be so bashful. There, you can split them up and each take a side. Make sure, and if there's any extra, which there might not be, and if we need to go make some more, we will. One, because we're all going to discuss and assign a leader of the table. You don't get paid or anything for this, but assign one person because, as you notice, they have answers on those questions, and we don't want everybody to know the answers, just the leader. So, one person's going to be kind of a leader. What's that? Somebody have a question? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to have some answer some more who, what, when, where, and why questions from those discussions. We're going to look at Group 1A questions. Group 1A. Okay, what I'm going to do is give you maybe 5 minutes because we're going to be short of time. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate that. You can just set them right there. Very good, very good. Okay, you get a time for discussion. I'm going to sit down or put some up on the board while you discuss these, and we're going to come back and talk about them real quick. I'm not used to all this hardware. Terrible if I ever have to get crutches or a cane or a walker. I'll be lost. But hopefully I'll have my wife to help me like she does now. Hopefully, because I'll need her. I'll tell you right now. I'll need her. She does already. Yes, she does. Okay. So, okay, God is making an agreement here, or a covenant with the Israelites. Okay? But he would only fulfill that covenant if they did what? What did they have to do to make God's promises come? Obey. Whoa. That's just one word. That should be easy to do, right? Obey is just one word. No, obeying is hard to do. I think we all will acknowledge that. Okay, but he said, if you obey, I will what? Go ahead, Bill. Yes, okay, be their God. Okay, and bless them. Yes, that's a good one. Okay, so there. Moses told the Israelites God's promises. He didn't tell them directly these promises. He talked to Moses, and Moses came back and gave them these promises. Okay, let's look at the verse that I wanted you to look up ahead of time. Psalm 19. Exodus, pardon me. Psalm's my next one. Exodus 19. I'm going to read the first part, then I'm going to prompt you guys to read together the last part. I'm going to start with verse 7. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all these words, these being some of them that we just read, and laid them before them all the words which the Lord commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, here's your cue, guys. Okay, very good. Imagine all the elders in agreement with all the people said, we're going to do that. I always chuckle when they say that because they had a little problem doing that. Okay. So let's see. And I forgot to bring a visual I had from a Sunday school lesson. God gave all these commandments and these instructions from Mount Sinai, and it was a terrible sight to look at. The Israelites couldn't go up there, or couldn't touch it even. But Moses got special permission to do that. And I wanted to have that out, and I'll bring it to have up there for the next week so you can look at it. Because it was a terrible, scary sight. God was up on that mountain. Okay. Now, before God was going to give them the 10 Commandments and the other instructions, they had to prepare themselves because it was so important what God was going to say. You know, they had to do things like concentrate for 2 days and pray and just think about the Lord God. They had to wash their clothes and get all clean before God would give them the words. They had to, they couldn't go near the mountain. Or they'd be put to death even. And he wanted to make sure that they knew God was completely different from any God they ever knew in Egypt. Okay. So he went up to the mountain, Moses did, and he got these instructions and he came back and gave them. But let's look Exodus 20, verse 2. Exodus 20, verse 2. It says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the houses of slavery. Okay, let's go ahead and have a little, 1B. Take a few minutes to discuss that, 1B. At your tables, please. Yeah, I think that's a verse it has there. Let me look. Yep, Exodus 20, verse 2. Use that as a reference. Okay. So, if I know you can't read this way in the back, but it's the verse you just had in front of you, Exodus 20, verse 2. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Okay. So this is the beginning of God's giving of the law of the Ten Commandments, of the instructions to the Israelites. So does this seem kind of like an odd way to introduce Ten Commandments? Does it to you? It's kind of like a prologue. This is called a prologue. It comes before the actual body of what's important. Like an epilogue will come after the body of what you have is. Does anybody think this is a good way to start the Ten Commandments and all the instructions? He's introducing himself as God, your God, and he's the one that got you out of the house, that got you out of the land of slavery, out of Egypt, and taking you to a new land. So it signifies the importance of God in their whole wilderness wandering and in their habitation in the land of Canaan. So it's very important they know who brought them out of Egypt. It wasn't their natural abilities, it wasn't their cunningness, it wasn't their mighty power of war. It was God who was completely responsible for the Israelites. Now, I would think if I had seen what God had done by getting us out of Egypt, I would be very respectful of him, for a while anyway, as they were too. Because they promised they were going to do everything he said, so they respect. Yes?
How long do you suppose it was from the time they actually left and crossed the Red Sea until they actually got the prologue and the commandments?
Well, it wasn't that long when they got to Mount Sinai. It was like, am I thinking how you got?
It says Moses on Sinai 19. It says in the third month after the
Third month. That's. There you go. Yeah, I was thinking 2, but it's 3. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, you know I always found the funniest part, and I know why he did this. If you went the most direct route from Egypt to Canaan, it would only be a week or 2 to get there. That's all it would take. But unfortunately, fortunately, they had lessons to learn. They probably could have learned them while they were in Canaan, but he had to prepare them to inhabit the land of Canaan. Okay, the other question on that, and we've kind of already discussed as I did, and what is God saying in that prologue? Anybody have some other ideas? What is he saying in that prologue? Karen? Uh-huh. Yeah. You know, at 65 years old, I am finally getting to that point in life where I'm realizing more and more and thinking about that before I have to think about it later. And it's helped my walk so much. It has, but we sometimes forget about that. Yes. Who is it that's over us and that's watching us and right beside us? Yes, Katie.
I was just thinking, the promise had been made to Abraham that they would go down to Egypt.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a continuation.
Kind of a renewal of that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Kind of. Anything else? Okay, let's. So, when I, not that I'm such a bold figure, but when I got up here and started talking, all you guys kind of quieted down, and you sat down, and you were respectful. Now, was it, and which as it should be. Now, when you encountered like teachers at school, those of you that go to school, when they come, or maybe like instructors for band or instructors for music lessons. When they tell you to do something, you just ignore them and start walking around. Is that what you do, Sarah? Do you just ignore those teachers? No, what do? You listen, sit upright, get ready to be taught. And that's what God wanted the Israelites to do. God also at this time gave him his name. God has a special name that he uses just for the people that he's real close with. And here they are, right up here. I'll get on this side. I'm not used to being right-handed. His name was, tell me, somebody read that. Tell me what his name is. I'll take anybody. Raise your hand, quick. Yes. Yahweh. You know, I took a class in school in college one time, and I learned it later, too, in my lessons. But the Jewish people revered that name so much and were so respectful of it that they weren't even allowed to write it out, the whole name. They couldn't spell that out and put it on paper because they weren't holy enough to do that. So what they did a lot of times, they left out the A and the E. Am I correct in that, Chris? Yeah, I think I remember that, and my memory might not be correct. But they wouldn't even write that name. But here's some characteristics of Yahweh, the God that's going to lead the Israel. I can't do right-handed. To do left. God, Yahweh is sovereign. God has the right, the wisdom, and the power to do all that he pleases. So when he was going to give those instructions to the Israelites, he had the right to do that, didn't he? No one else had the right. What about Moses? He said, well, I got a couple more I'd like to add to that, God. Can we put these in? Would that be proper? Would the people have listened to Moses? They were always griping about Moses. I can tell you right now, they would not have listened to what Moses wrote without God telling them. Yahweh, or God, is self-sufficient. That means he doesn't need the Israelites for anything. He doesn't even need them to worship him. He would desire that, but he doesn't need them. Yahweh, the God, he's eternal. God has no beginning and end. God has no beginning and end. Now, how would you what if you put your affections and your attentions and your respect on somebody you knew was only going to live 60 or 70 years? And once he was gone, well, your affections and your attention would wane and be gone for the most part. But God is eternal. God is almighty. God is all-powerful. He can do anything. Would you not respect somebody that was all-powerful? I think we would. And Yahweh, our God, is unchanging. He never changes. That is quite a promise. I really like that. He's not going to change the rules. He's not going to flip these 10 commandments and change them at any point in time. So these are all reasons we can trust in God, and the Israelites could trust. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Yes. Oh, yeah.
When Pam and I were teaching CEF,
Okay.
business clubs in Murray this year, the fact that God is eternal,
Uh-huh.
it just didn't seem like the kids could grasp that
Yeah.
idea. They asked that all year long.
What is that?
Where did God come from?
Yeah, it's the beginning of that eternal that I have the biggest issue with. I always did as a kid. I can, for some reason, see the future eternal. That past eternal, always, and I still have questions. I just accept God's word that that's the way it was. Yep, as a kid, I do remember that a lot, though. No one could really explain that very well to me, and I guess God's beyond explanation sometime. Okay. So God has a right to be a ruler, and we're going to put this right up top to show that God rules. He's the one in control and should be. Okay, let's go. We're going to run out of time here. I knew we would. Beth, can I have you come up here and help me? I've told her beforehand so she could practice this. You wouldn't know the number of loaves of bread we had to do before she got this down right. Having 12 kids, she knows how to make a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah. Oh, it's a little uneven there, dear. No. Now you know why I've started a part. Now you know why I started a part-time job. I was too helpful to her. Okay, there you are. Stay there. Okay, stay there. Okay, now look at that sandwich. Whose peanut butter sandwich is that? Who claims the right to that peanut butter sandwich? What's that? Michael. Oh, he wants it, but whose sandwich is that? Who made it? Beth made it. That's her sandwich. She can do without what she wants. She might share it with me if I. Too bad I made a remark already, so I don't. Somebody else might get it, or she might just take it home and eat it, or she might cut it in half and share one with me and one with her. Oh, 4 pieces. That's getting a little too small for my appetite, Beth. Oh, so she could, but does she have the right to do that, what she pleases? God has a right to do with us what he pleases as well, because he's made us. So he can do that. Okay, and she could just throw that away. You know, sometimes when people die and God allows that, or that's what he wants for his glory, I question that sometimes. But God made that person. Does he not have the right to take them home or end their life? Certainly does. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. I will. Okay. You want the sack, or are you going to? Oh, gosh. Micah, you rate. Way to go. Okay, so let's, and then the food's going to, yeah, I'm glad they're not cooking those hot dogs and burgers now, or I'd be just drooling here. I'd have to wear a bib to do my lesson. Okay, so, talked about Yahweh, and that's a personal name. Now, when we address a good friend of ours, you kids or adults, we can answer this. When we have a good friend that we've had all our life, I know Randy was talking about a friend that he knew from the service, is that right, from the Air Force, that you're kind of co-dieting with? Now, do you call him, what's his name, full name? Last name? Lund? Lund. Now, when you talk to him, you say, Mr. Lund, this is Randy. Or how do you call him? How do you address him? Okay. Oh, no, don't tell her. Get somebody else here. Texting is not talking. But when you see him in person, if you do, what do you call him? Oh, is there a name you can't mention? Or you call him by his first name, don't you? And that was God's special name, was Yahweh to his people, because it was a personal name. It wasn't a title or something. It was just his own personal name that he used for the Israelites. You know, God is very good. He promises to do this and that, but he doesn't just promise to have a kingdom for us. He wants us to be in his home, or where he dwells. That's a little house, by the way, if you can't. Oh, boy, that's crooked. Can't use it. Ow! Stick on me just fine. You know, God's inviting the Israelites to be part of his household, basically. With the instruction he gives them, and with the attention they give him, and the commitment to that covenant, he wants them to be part of his home. Not just part of a subject of a kingdom. He wants us to belong personally to him in heaven. And God, you know, God is the same way with each and one of us. He wants us to personally have a relationship with him and belong to his household, as it were. You know, that's what he's wishing for every single one of us, boys, girls, old people, young people. So that's what he wanted with Israel. Okay, let's see. I don't know if we're going to have time for questions. See, I'm going to do one last illustration. Oh, here it is. Sarah, you feel strong today? Sure, come on up here. We're not going to tie you up in this, expect you to get out. Okay, I want you to hold that. Okay, hold on tight. Okay, put that over your back and see how that feels. Would that be a kind of a burden? Is that real hard though right now? No, not well. We're going to change that real soon here. Okay, there. How's that feel? A little tougher. If you had to carry that around today, that would be a little more difficult to live your life. Okay, but we're gonna make things more difficult. My wife works out with twice that much every day. Well, maybe not, but she'd like to. Okay, now walk around and come back over here. So that's a little burden to have around. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to be your deliverer and release you from some of these burdens. Hold on to that bag. You can't not yet. You got to hold on until I release it. Okay. There. You know, the Israelites, they had many burdens that they needed God to release from them. First of all, they need to release the burden of slavery from Egypt, didn't they? Okay, thank you so much. Give Sarah a hand there. Just a little demonstration. They needed burdens released. What about when they came to the Red Sea and they had no boats to cross it? That would be quite a burden, and the Egyptians are coming upon them with their whole army of chariots. Did God relieve that burden from them? He absolutely did. You know, he also, and we'll find out with these instructions, he's going to show people what a burden they have with their sins. He's going to show that that is the biggest burden of all for anybody. Okay, and that's the burden he really wanted to relieve them from. Now, he's given these commandments that we're going to discuss in the next few weeks. Now, I was just been reading in Psalms this last week. That was some of my daily readings. Psalm 119. And I think I came up with 8 or 10 reasons that David's talking about how wonderful it is to follow the instructions and the commandments of God. It just came out. I said, wow. I said, well, how appropriate was my lesson this week? I mean, he had lots of reasons. But, you know, I don't remember any of them being that the commandments were going to get rid of his sins. I don't remember any of those in that respect. Do you, Pam, were you reading along this week? I don't remember, but they gave him joy. They gave him pleasure. They made him wise. I mean, I think there's about 10 of them. I don't know how I did. I was going to list them out this week, and I didn't. I got moved on to some other passages. So, you know, that's what God's intent in these 10 commandments and all these instructions he gives them. It's not that they're going to learn to follow the commandments, because they will not follow all the commandments. No more than you or I would follow the commandments. You know, I've looked at those 60 years probably since I was preschooler, went to Sunday school class. Have I got them all down yet? No, I don't. Any of you got them down yet? No, you don't. Well, you're all honest folks. Okay, but you know, that is what we're going to be learning about in the next few weeks. We're not learning those commandments so that we learn to do them. We're learning what it's going to take, the power of God to relieve that burden. It's a good indicator. It's a good gauge to say, hey, I need to do something because I'm not following these very good. I think with that, we'll close. We're out of time. Lord, thank you for the wonderful instructions you do give us in your word. We thank you that they make our life better. They make our life more joyful. They give us less burdens if we can follow those. But Lord, most importantly, we thank you that God has given us a purpose and a plan to get rid of that sin burden from each and every one of us, and that is through the sacrifice of his Lord, or his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. Just let us keep that in mind this week as we do our family studies, as we do our readings, that you and you alone are the power to remove sin from us, and we thank you for that. Amen. Before you go, a quick introduction. Everyone, I think everyone will be getting some family study guides to have. They're going to go over some of the stuff I've covered. You're going to make, this is going to just be part of a big mural we're going to have. You're going to have your own personal little mural to make to remind us of the 10 Commandments. So you'll have, I think, probably this portion of the mural to put together this week. It's your family mural. So And it's broken down. It's not, maybe Gary will explain a little more. It's in the back. There you go. Thank you. And these lessons, they're intended for every day of the week, but they're not 2-hour lessons. They're just very short, and they're very good. I went through some of them, looked at them, and they're very good. So encourage every one of you and your families to go through those every day, and you'll be ready for next week as well. Go, Gary.
They're family devotional guides. So this will take you 5 days a week. It'll give you some kind of devotion to do as a family. If you're not doing that, it's a great thing to do. So if you have kids, make sure that you get one of these, the new revised one. It's a little more kid-friendly. If some of you who don't have kids at home would take the old version, we would appreciate that, because we have a few of those left over. And if you have one at home from 4 or 5 years ago when we did the class last time, it's the same material. So they contain the same materials. This one just has some updated visuals for the kiddies that they'll enjoy a little more. So, but the actual material's identical inside as far as the devotional. So, all right, we'll leave these up here. You can pick them up. If we run out, we'll get some more. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, I think service will begin in less than 10 minutes.